The morning sun cast long shadows over the towering glass facade of Blackwood Corporation. The building stood like a monument to ambition, sleek, cold, and impenetrable. Olivia Hart took a deep breath as she stared up at it, adjusting the strap of her purse on her shoulder. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she stepped inside the grand lobby, every sound echoing with quiet authority. This wasn't just another job. This was the job dot after 2 years of freelancing and hustling through assistant roles that led nowhere. She'd finally secured a position as the executive assistant to Damian Blackwood, the enigmatic CEO of one of the most powerful marketing firms in the country. He was known for building empires, destroying competitors, and firing assistants like changing neckties. 6 assistants in a year. Her friend Ethan had warned over coffee just the night before, and one quit on the second day. "Be careful, Liv." She hadn't replied. She couldn't. Something about this place, the pressure, the prestige, and perhaps, if she dared admit it, the man behind the empire both thrilled and terrified her. The elevator chimed softly as it reached the top floor. Olivia stepped out, greeted by minimalist decor and the faint smell of polished wood. A tall brunette woman at the front desk gave her a once-over and offered a tight smile. "Mr. Blackwood is in the boardroom. You're late by 3 minutes." Olivia blinked, checking her watch. She wasn't late. The elevator had stopped twice on the way up, but now wasn't the time to argue. "Thank you," she said calmly, smoothing her blouse. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the boardroom door. Inside, a dozen executives sat around a long, glossy table. All heads turned as the door opened, and Olivia stepped in, her heart pounding like a war drum. At the far end of the room, with a presence that silenced even the air, was Damian Blackwood. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, but his aura was older, sharper. Crisp navy suit, neatly tailored, dark hair swept back. Eyes cold and piercing, as if he could dissect her thoughts with a single glance, and he was watching her now. "I'm Olivia Hart," she said, her voice steady despite the storm beneath her ribs. "Your new assistant." A beat of silence. His gaze didn't waver. "You were due at 9. "It's 9:03, she replied without hesitation, lifting her chin. "The elevator was excuses," he cut in, "are not part of the culture here." Someone shifted uncomfortably in their seat. Olivia caught the brief smirk on the lips of a woman 3 chairs down. "Take a seat," Damian said, not sparing her another. Glance as he returned to his presentation. Olivia sat. Her cheeks burned, but she kept her posture straight, her notes ready. She could feel the weight of Damian's authority pressing down on the room, demanding perfection. He spoke with sharp precision, each word calculated, each sentence a command, and yet between the cool condescension and razor-sharp tone, there was something in his voice. A flicker of curiosity when she challenged him, a glimmer that said he didn't expect her to push back. When the meeting ended, the room cleared quickly, murmurs following Olivia like a shadow. She gathered her things only to hear Damian's voice again, soft, low, but undeniable. "Miss Hart," a word. She turned, pulse racing. He didn't look at her, not at first. He poured himself a glass of water, his back to her. "You speak well," he said. "You handled the tension decently." "Thank you," Olivia replied cautiously. He finally turned. His eyes bored into hers, but don't mistake that for acceptance. "Everyone impresses me in the first hour. No one lasts longer than 3 months." Olivia swallowed, his tone sharpened. "If you want to survive here, Miss Hart, learn this. I don't tolerate weakness, or sentiment, or distractions." She didn't flinch. Understood. A ghost of a smirk touched his lips, like he was daring her to prove him wrong. "Let's see how long you last." Asterisk after hours, the 42nd floor was silent. The digital clock on Olivia's laptop blinked 10:27 p.m. The office. once buzzing with movement and voices, now sat in eerie stillness. Fluorescent lights above cast a pale glow over her desk, highlighting scattered contracts, color-coded tabs, and an untouched cup of cold coffee. Olivia Hart was the only one left. She hadn't been told to stay late. No one demanded it. But the French contract had errors, subtle, buried inconsistencies, and Damian Blackwood had made it clear. He wanted a clean, revised version on his desk before midnight. For most, it might have been a punishment. For Olivia, it felt like something else. A test. An invitation. She rolled her aching shoulders, trying to focus on the last paragraph. Her eyes stung from hours of screen glare, her fingers stiff. But beneath the exhaustion was a strange exhilaration. She was tired, yes, but alive. Like she was inching closer to something: respect, recognition, or maybe understanding. Then came the soft creak of a door. Still here. The low voice behind her was unmistakable. Olivia turned around, startled. Damian stood at the threshold of her workspace, his tailored suit jacket draped casually over one arm. His shirt collar was slightly undone, his dark tie loosened. No longer the polished, distant CEO from the morning. There was something more human about him now. Unfiltered. Double quotes, yes, Olivia said quickly, brushing a strand of hair behind her. I'm finalizing the revised contract. You said you needed it tonight. He stepped forward, scanning the documents on her screen without touching anything. His presence alone was enough to shift the air around her. He didn't have to. Stay, he said. Most would have sent it by morning. I figured most don't last long here for a reason, she replied, lips curving slightly. Besides, the contract had more issues than it looked. I didn't want to rush it. Damon's eyes flicked to hers. Something passed between them, not approval, not surprise, but a pause. A slight disruption in his usually smooth demeanor. Turned toward the adjacent meeting room and said, without looking back, "Bring your files." The private conference room was dimmer, warmer. A golden-hued light illuminated the table, casting soft shadows across Damon's face. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened to the glittering skyline of New York City, distant, unreachable. Olivia placed the documents between them, unsure whether to sit or stand. Damian gestured to the chair across from him. She took her seat carefully. Fresh cups of coffee rested nearby, courtesy of the night receptionist. Olivia wasn't sure if Damian had seen her make the call, but he hadn't objected. They worked in silence at first. Red pens scratched across paper. Notes were jotted. Numbers recalculated. Olivia could feel his focus, intense and consuming. She matched it word for word, line by line, refusing to falter. Then, without warning, he asked, "Why do you work this hard, Miss Hart?" His voice was calm, but there was an edge of curiosity. "Is it ambition or fear?" She blinked. The question felt too personal, too sudden. She hesitated, then set her pen down. "Neither," she said softly. "Maybe it's hunger." That made him look up. "Hunger?" Olivia nodded, eyes steady. "To be seen, to matter. I've spent years doing everything right and fading into the background anyway. I'm tired of that. I want more." Damian studied her, really studied her. No condescension, no smirk. Just a long, evaluating silence. Then he said, "Careful. Hunger makes people dangerous." She didn't flinch. "Then maybe you finally hired the right kind of dangerous?" A slow grin touched his lips, not sarcastic, not mocking, real, surprised even. "Touché," he murmured, rising to his feet. He slipped the finalized documents into his briefcase. Adjusting the strap on his shoulder before he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. His voice dropped lower, quieter. "Good work tonight." 4 words. But they felt heavier than 100 compliments. Olivia sat still as the door clicked shut behind him, her fingers resting lightly on the table. For a moment, the world outside the window seemed impossibly far away. Inside, her heart pulsed with something unfamiliar. Pride, danger, anticipation. Whatever this was between them, it wasn't just work. And in that quiet room, beneath the office lights and shadows of the night, Olivia Hart realized she was stepping into something far more complicated than ambition. She was stepping into him. The return of the storm the following morning. Blackwood Corporation buzzed with unusual energy. The front desk was covered in fresh white orchids, subtle, elegant, and wildly expensive. Catering carts rolled through the lobby with trays of artisan pastries and gold-rimmed coffee cups. Even the interns were wearing ties. Olivia clutched her notepad as she stepped out of the elevator, a quiet frown forming on her face. No one had mentioned any event in today's calendar. No meetings, no company milestones. But the tension in the air was thick, almost electric. She hadn't seen Damian since last night. She hadn't expected to. A few polite emails were exchanged. After midnight, efficient, distant, exactly what she should have wanted, but part of her still replayed the look in his eyes when he told her, "Good work tonight." Not cold, not distant, real. Now, as she passed through the main corridor, whispers followed her. "She's back. I thought she was in Milan. Didn't she leave after? Blackwood's ex-wife?" The last word stopped Olivia in her tracks. Ex-wife? Before she could turn around, a set of high heels clicked confidently across the marble floor. Heads turned. Conversations died. A perfume sweet, expensive, and impossible to ignore drifted into the air like smoke. Cassandra Vale. Like she owned the building. Tall, graceful, with sharp cheekbones and eyes like polished glass. Cassandra wore a fitted black blazer over silk cream blouse, paired with a red lip that was too bold for mourning but perfect for making people remember her. And Olivia did remember her. From fashion magazines, from business features, from photos beside Damian on old press releases. The woman beside him in every photo. The woman with the same last name until 2 years ago. Their eyes met. Cassandra smiled. It wasn't warm. "You must be Olivia," she said, voice smooth like velvet and just as dangerous. Olivia blinked. "I am. I have heard good things." Cassandra extended a hand, nails perfectly manicured. "I'm Cassandra, creative director." "Starting today." Olivia shook her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong, unyielding. "It's a pleasure." "To meet you," Olivia said cautiously. "Oh, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other," Cassandra replied. "I'm working directly under Damian." "Well," she laughed, with a little tilt of her head. "Not quite like before, of course." Olivia felt a strange flicker of discomfort crawl under her skin. She opened her mouth to respond, but a new voice interrupted. "Cassandra." Damian stood just a few steps away. His expression was unreadable, his voice clipped. She turned to him, smiling wider. "Darling, you look well." "Let's keep it professional," he said. Then, after a beat, "You're early." "I couldn't wait to get started," she purred. There was a silence that stretched too long. Olivia tried not to stare, but her eyes kept bouncing between them. The way Cassandra tilted her head, the way Damon's jaw flexed slightly, the way neither of them looked at her. "Olivia," Damian said suddenly, turning to her. "I'll need those briefings from marketing on my desk by 10. "Yes, Mr. Blackwood," Olivia replied, steady. Cassandra's eyes sparkled at that. "Mr. Blackwood." As if amused. As Damian walked away, Cassandra lingered for just a second longer. She turned to Olivia again, this time leaning in a little too close. "Don't get too comfortable, dear," she said sweetly. "He doesn't do favorites, and he always finds his way back. Eventually." With that, she turned and walked away. her heels echoing down the corridor like a countdown. Back at her desk, Olivia sat frozen. The warmth of last night had vanished. It was as if a storm had swept in, carrying with it memories Olivia didn't even know existed. Who was Cassandra Vale to Damian now? Why had she come back? And why did Olivia feel like she was suddenly part of a game she never agreed to play? She stared at her computer screen, but the words blurred. All she could see was the way Cassandra looked at her, like she already knew how this story ended, and she had every intention of writing it. Asterisk games we don't know we're playing by the end of the week. Olivia had memorized the scent of Cassandra's perfume. It lingered everywhere, on doorknobs, in elevators, on files that had passed through her hands. Sweet, powdery, deliberate. It wrapped around the office like a net. Delicate and inescapable. Cassandra didn't just return to Blackwood Corp, she dominated it. Every day, she floated through meetings in flawless heels and designer suits. Her voice a blend of warmth and sarcasm, her compliments always carrying an invisible hook. Everyone admired her, no one trusted her. Olivia quickly understood why. At first, it was little things, a misplaced memo, an email Olivia knew she sent but somehow never arrived, a sudden misunderstanding about a meeting location where she was made to look late, and always, that same sickly sweet smile from Cassandra afterward, as if to say, oops, how careless of you. Olivia kept quiet. She wasn't naive. She knew what this was, a silent war wrapped in lipstick and power suits. But what she didn't know, what truly gnawed at her, was where Damian stood in all of it. He hadn't spoken to her much since that night. Professional, yes, cordial, but gone were the shared glances, the private moments, the way he once seemed to listen so carefully. Now his tone was clipped, his eyes unreadable. He never looked at her for longer than necessary. Olivia hated how much that bothered her. One afternoon, after hours of trying to fix a data error that wasn't her fault, Olivia stormed into the executive kitchen, desperate for air. She leaned against the counter, gripping a glass of water, when she heard heels approaching. Of course, Cassandra, ball quote, so, sweetheart, she said, reaching past Olivia for a mug. Rough day? Olivia stiffened. Nothing I can't handle. Cassandra gave her a faux pitying look. That's the spirit, though. You might want to double-check your next email. I hear someone's not proofreading. Olivia turned. You do realize subtlety isn't your strength, right? Cassandra's smile faltered just slightly. You're smart, she said. I like that. Really, it makes this fun? Olivia echoed that. Cassandra poured herself a cup of coffee, stirring it slowly. You're new, pretty ambitious, and you've clearly caught his eye. Olivia's heart thudded, but she kept her face still. I've worked with Damian for years, Cassandra continued. Before, during, and after the marriage. You don't need to understand the details. Just know this. She leaned in closer. No one gets to stay close to him for long. Not unless he lets them, and trust me, he doesn't. Silence stretched between them like a live wire. Olivia stepped back. Maybe you're right, she said, voice cool. But I'm not here to impress you. Cassandra gave her one last look, then walked away, leaving the scent of orchids and venom behind her. That evening, Olivia was organizing a file cabinet near Damian's office when she overheard voices. His door was slightly ajar. Cassandra? She's not as composed as you think. Her voice was light, laced with amusement. One more slip up and you'll see for yourself. Damian didn't respond immediately. Then, you're not here to evaluate my team. Do your job. Oh, darling, she cooed. I am doing my job. Silence. Then the sound of footsteps, heels, and the door closed fully. Olivia stood frozen, file in hand. Her chest felt tight. Was Damian protecting her? or letting Cassandra break her down piece by piece. She didn't know Daw, and suddenly, that terrified her more than anything. The breaking point happened on a Monday morning, the kind of morning where the office lights felt too bright, the coffee tasted too bitter, and the silence in the air was so sharp it could cut skin. Olivia Hart walked into Blackwood Corp's main conference room at 8:56 a.m., balancing a folder of reports and her favorite black pen. The weekly performance review meeting was about to start. She'd spent all weekend compiling detailed analytics, editing slides, cross-checking numbers. She was ready. Or so she thought. When the projector turned on, the first slide didn't show the Q2 forecast she had prepared. Instead, it was a spreadsheet, full of raw, unfiltered, internal financial data numbers not meant to be shared outside of C-level executives. There were errors, big ones, unapproved projections, misleading charts. The room went silent. Damian Blackwood, seated at the head of the table, stared at the screen with a frozen expression. His jaw clenched slightly, but he didn't speak. Not yet. Olivia felt her heart stop. That's not the right file. No one moved. She rushed to the laptop, fingers trembling, opened folders, checked paths. Her version flawless, polished was nowhere to be found. The only file on the drive was this one. Corrupted. Dangerous. Damon's voice was cold. Who uploaded this? Olivia looked around, bewildered. I submitted the final version last night. This isn't someone must have. It was sent from your account at 11:43 p.m. Cassandra interrupted sweetly from the far side of the table. I received a copy myself. You even CC'd me. Very thorough. A few executives shifted in their seats. One whispered, "She just started 2 weeks ago." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Olivia turned to Damian. "I didn't send that file. I swear someone changed it." Damian's eyes met hers for the first time in the meeting. There was no warmth, no signal of belief. Just ice. Step. Outside, Miss Hart. The words hit harder than she expected. She gathered her things slowly, her face calm, but inside she was shaking. She walked out, holding herself tall as the door closed behind her. She didn't let herself cry. Not yet. 30 minutes later, she sat alone at her desk, staring blankly at her monitor. She checked her email. The file had been sent from her account. The timestamp was real, but the version was wrong, manipulated. Someone had overwritten the presentation after she finalized it. Only a few people had access, and Olivia knew exactly who one of them was. A soft knock pulled her back to reality. It was Ethan Cole, her quiet, reliable coworker from the analytics team. He held out a coffee cup and gave her a small, hesitant smile. "You look like you could use this." She took it, her hands finally trembling. "Thank you." He sat beside her, lowering his voice. "I don't believe it was your mistake." Olivia looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because I know how obsessed you are with triple-checking everything," he said gently. "And because Cassandra walked out of your office last night 15 minutes before that file was sent." Olivia's breath caught. 15 minutes, the exact gap. Her hands tightened around the cup. "You should talk to Damian," Ethan said. "Tell him what really happened." She shook her head. "He won't believe me." "Then make him." That evening, Olivia stood outside Damon's office for nearly 5 minutes before she knocked. "Come in," came the deep voice from within. He was sitting behind his desk, reviewing something. He didn't look up. "I didn't send that file," she began. "Someone used my access. I have reason to believe Cassandra was in my office last night. I have no proof yet, but you need to know." Damon's eyes finally rose to meet hers, and for the first time since she started working there, he looked tired, guarded, conflicted. Why would she do that? He asked. "Cassandra doesn't care about sabotaging reports." "No," Olivia said, voice harder now. But she cares about me being the one blamed. She wants me out. He said nothing. Silence stretched out. Then, quietly, Damian asked, "And what do you want, Olivia?" She blinked. "I want to work in a place where truth matters," she said softly. "Where people earn their position, not destroy others to keep it. And maybe I wanted to believe that you saw that in me." Damian stood slowly, walking around the desk. For a moment, he was close. Too close, but his face was unreadable. "I'll look into it," he said finally. "Until then, you're suspended for 2 days, with pay." That last part, with pay, felt like pity. Or guilt. She didn't know which was worse. "Understood," Olivia said, her voice cracking only once. She turned and walked out before he could see the tear forming in her eye dot as she left the building that night. The sky above Manhattan threatened rain. Olivia. Hart had lost more than just a meeting. She'd lost something she hadn't even realized she was giving away. Trust. And for the first time, she was starting to understand just how dangerous it was to care about Damian Blackwood. Asterisk. 2 days of suspension. 40-8 hours away from the cold elevators, the glares, the polite smiles laced with poison. Olivia Hart had spent those hours in silence, not sulking, not grieving, but watching, studying every email she'd sent, checking timestamps, backup files, server logs. And most of all, thinking about Damian, about Cassandra, and about how this game was never meant to be played. Fair. Now, as she stepped back into Blackwood Corp, something in her had changed. Her steps were slower, more calculated, her eyes sharper, her smile controlled. Not fake, not naive, just practice. "Welcome back," one of the junior assistants muttered, not meeting her eyes. Olivia said nothing. She didn't need their approval. Not anymore. Instead, she walked straight to her desk, turned on her monitor, and began to dig. The IT system at Blackwood Corp was sophisticated but not impenetrable. Olivia had learned that early on from Ethan, who happened to have exactly the kind of access she now needed. "Please," she whispered over coffee with him in a nearby cafe that morning. "I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. Just tell me who accessed my drive that night." Ethan hesitated. "Liv, you're walking into something you might not be able to walk back out of." She looked him dead in the eyes. "Then I'll crawl out. But I'm not going to let her destroy me without fighting back." Back at her desk, Ethan messaged her a single name. Remote login, C. Vale. Timestamp, 11:29 p.m., 15 minutes before the corrupted file was sent. Cassandra had accessed her computer. Olivia exhaled shakily. Not relief, not satisfaction. This was only proof. But proof in the wrong hands meant nothing. She had to be smart. She drafted an internal memo, simple, concise, and saved it to her encrypted drive. A personal log. One she'd keep growing, one that would remain private, until the moment it wasn't. For now, she needed more. She needed Cassandra to slip, and for that, she had to play a different role, the naive assistant once more. Later, that afternoon, Olivia knocked softly on the glass wall of the creative office. Cassandra was seated at her sleek desk, flipping through a portfolio. She glanced up, looking mildly surprised. "Well, look who survived suspension," she purred. "Did Damian pat your head before letting you back in?" "I just wanted to say thank you," Olivia said sweetly, stepping closer. Cassandra blinked. "Excuse me?" Olivia smiled wide, innocent. "You're right about this place. It's brutal, but I'm learning." Cassandra's gaze narrowed. "Learning what?" "How to keep my eyes open." Olivia leaned in. "And how to make sure people like you never see me coming." Then she turned and walked away, not waiting for a response. Behind her, the silence was delicious. That evening, Damian called her into his office. She stood in front of his desk, unreadable, professional. "I heard you returned quietly," he said. "No scenes." "I'm here to work," Olivia replied. "I assume that's still what I'm being paid for?" Damian leaned back in his chair. His face was calm, but there was a flicker of something unease. "Conflict? I've started looking into the file issue," he said. "I'm doing the same." Olivia replied smoothly, "And when I'm ready, I'll show you what I find." There was a beat of silence between them. "You're different," he said finally. Olivia met his gaze, unwavering. "No, I'm just no longer pretending to be easy to break." He looked at her like he didn't know whether to admire her or fear her. Maybe both. As she turned to leave, Damian called out softly, "Olivia." She paused. "You were right. Cassandra doesn't play fair." "I know," she said without looking back. "That's why I stopped playing nice." The office was a battlefield, but Olivia had learned to fight without raising a weapon. 2 weeks had passed since the incident that nearly destroyed her. The suspension had been a cruel lesson, but it had also been a gift, a moment to pause, observe, and plan. Now, as she sat at her desk late into the night, the glow of the monitor reflected in her steady eyes. This time, she wasn't overwhelmed by fear or doubt. Instead, she was calculating, measured, and patient. Her plan was subtle. A quiet war waged in shadows. First, she compiled the evidence she and Ethan had gathered. The logs showing Cassandra's unauthorized access to her files, the suspicious email forwarding, the strange delays in project updates. It was enough to raise questions, though not yet proof to confront openly. Olivia drafted a carefully worded report and sent it anonymously to Human Resources. It detailed anomalies and raised concerns without pointing fingers directly. Her goal wasn't immediate victory, it was to see doubt. The next step was even more delicate. She began cultivating allies discreetly. A whispered conversation in the break room with a sympathetic colleague, a casual remark to a project manager about missed deadlines and unexplained changes. Olivia knew Cassandra's charm masked her ruthlessness, but not everyone was fooled. The office atmosphere shifted imperceptibly. Where once Cassandra's presence commanded unquestioned attention, now there were side glances, quiet questions. Behind her back, the balance of power, once tilted, began to level. One afternoon, Damian summoned Olivia to a rare executive lunch. They met in the sleek, glass-walled conference room overlooking the city skyline. He observed her quietly as they ate. "You've changed," he said finally, voice low and serious. "More guarded. Less like the person who walked through these doors 6 weeks ago." Olivia met his gaze, unflinching. "I had to," she replied. "I learned quickly that in this world, softness is a weakness." Damian nodded, studying her with a complex expression. "And Cassandra," he asked, "is this battle worth it?" Olivia considered carefully. "I don't want battle," she said honestly. "I want fairness, truth, and maybe some respect." He smiled faintly, a shadow crossing his features. "Sometimes," he murmured, "those things come with a price." The weight of his words lingered between them like a silent warning. Later that week, Olivia noticed a crack in Cassandra's armor. In the elevator. Their eyes met briefly, a flicker of something raw and unguarded passed between them. Cassandra's usual confidence faltered just for a second, replaced by a tightness in her jaw and a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Olivia didn't smile. She knew better than to celebrate a moment's weakness. This was a dangerous game. Cassandra was cunning, patient, and ruthless. And beneath the office lights, every move was watched. Every word weighed. Olivia felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming her power, and she intended to play her hand fully, fearlessly, and without mercy. The atmosphere at Blackwood Corp had shifted almost imperceptibly, but unmistakably. The usual hum of productivity and hush gossip was now tinged with an edge of anticipation. A quiet war being waged just beneath the polished surface. Olivia sat in her office late one evening, the soft glow of her laptop illuminating her determined face. She had spent the past weeks meticulously piecing together fragments emails, file logs, expense reports, all pointing toward one conclusion. Cassandra was not just a charming adversary, but a calculated saboteur with secrets worth exposing. Her breakthrough came in an unexpected form. A message appeared in her inbox, unsigned but urgent. Look closer at the expense reports. There's something they don't want anyone to see. Olivia's heart raced as she opened the attached files. Cassandra's expense claims were unusually high, often marked as client entertainment or office events. But a pattern emerged: several charges to exclusive venues and luxury hotels that didn't match any company event records. This wasn't just reckless spending. It hinted at embezzlement or misuse of funds. Olivia knew what she had to do. She gathered the evidence quietly and forwarded it to a trusted contact in human resources, wrapping her findings in a neutral tone that invited investigation without accusation. Within days, subtle ripples began to spread. In meetings, Cassandra noticed fewer nods of agreement. Conversations paused when she entered the room. Emails she once sent with the usual confident flair now went unanswered or met with cautious replies. One afternoon, Damian summoned Olivia to his office. The room was stark, bathed in the pale light of the afternoon sun filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Damian sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, eyes fixed intently on Olivia. "Your moves have stirred the waters," he said, voice low but edged with both respect and warning. "You're playing a dangerous game." Olivia met his gaze evenly. "I'm playing to survive and to expose the truth." He nodded slowly. "Cassandra is not a woman who yields easily. She will fight back." Before Olivia could respond, the door opened. Cassandra entered, her presence commanding as ever. Her eyes flicked between the two with a razor-sharp smile that held more ice than warmth. "Working late, Olivia?" she purred, voice silk with steel beneath. Damian's expression hardened. "This is a private meeting, Cassandra." She inclined her head gracefully. "Of course. I merely wish to remind you that loyalty is earned, not given." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. As she left, Olivia felt the weight of the confrontation settle heavily. That night, alone in her apartment, Olivia reflected on the perilous path ahead. Damon's subtle support was a lifeline, but also a reminder of how fragile alliances could be. Cassandra's veneer of charm masked a ruthless opponent who would stop at nothing, but Olivia was no longer the naive newcomer. She was the storm gathering strength beneath the office lights, and the tide was turning. The Monday morning air was thick with unspoken tension as Olivia stepped into Blackwood Corp. The corridors, usually echoing with the steady rhythm of footsteps and murmurs of conversation, now felt like the arena of a silent war. Every glance she caught was sharp, calculating. The allies she had slowly gathered watched from the sidelines, their eyes flickering with a mixture of hope and caution. Her phone buzzed quietly. A message from Ethan. "HR is moving on the expense reports. Cassandra's under review." A small victory, but Olivia knew better than to celebrate prematurely. Across the office, Cassandra sat behind her desk, lips pressed tight in a rare display of frustration. Her usual flawless composure was cracking, visible in the sharp breaths she took and the subtle tapping of her manicured fingers against the mahogany surface. She summoned Damian to her office. His presence filled the room instantly, and the unspoken history between them settled like a storm. "I heard about the audit," Damian said, voice low. Cassandra's eyes flashed. "They have nothing. It's a witch hunt." Olivia's desperation is transparent. Damian shook his head slowly. She's not naive anymore. Then she's dangerous, Cassandra whispered, leaning closer. And dangerous women are unpredictable. A heavy silence hung between them, thick with memories and resentment. Meanwhile, Olivia was orchestrating her next move. She called a discreet meeting with key department heads quiet. Conversations over coffee and after-hours chats. She shared data highlighting irregularities, inconsistencies only an insider could have manipulated. Slowly, the tide was turning. Asterisk, the city had long since surrendered to night. But the office at Blackwood Corp remained alive with a different kind of energy, tense, electric, and fragile as glassed-out Olivia sat alone in her dimly lit workspace. A soft blue glow from her laptop casting shadows on the scattered documents and unopened coffee cups. Her eyes were bloodshot from hours of digging, piecing together a puzzle that was as personal as it was professional. A sudden knock at the door startled her. Damian stepped inside quietly, closing the door behind him with a deliberate care. His presence filled the room like a storm about to break, calm, but heavy with unspoken words. "We need to talk," he said, voice low. Cutting through the thick silence, Olivia's heart caught. She closed her laptop slowly, sensing the gravity of what was coming. Meeting his gaze, she saw a conflict there, a man torn between loyalty, fear, and something that resembled regret. "What is it?" she asked, steadying her voice. Damian took a deep breath and withdrew a slim folder from his briefcase. The weight of the moment pressed down on them both as he opened it, revealing pages filled with data, reports, and what looked like an internal investigation. "They've been digging into you," he said quietly. "Not just your work, but your past, your history. Someone wants to find anything that can be used against you." Olivia's breath hitched. Her carefully constructed walls threatened to crumble, but she held herself upright, refusing to let panic take hold. "Who?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "Cassandra," Damian replied, his tone grim and unwavering. "She's orchestrated this entire campaign, from the sabotage at work to now this personal attack. She's relentless." A bitter laugh escaped Olivia's lips. "I thought I was the one under fire." Damian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "In this game, Olivia, trust is the most fragile currency. You can't be sure who's on your side." "Not fully." His words were heavy with truth and loneliness. "I don't know who to believe anymore," Olivia admitted, feeling the sting of vulnerability she rarely allowed herself. Damian's expression softened. He reached out, placing a tentative hand on her shoulder. "Believe in yourself. That's all I ask." For a brief, precious moment, the chaos outside their walls faded. Two people clinging to fragile hope amid the storm. Then her phone vibrated sharply. Breaking the spell, she glanced up a screen, an email from an unknown sender. The subject line, "Truth always surfaces." Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside were screenshots, private conversations, photographs, hints of past mistakes, and secrets long buried. A dossier of dirt Cassandra had painstakingly unearthed, twisted into weapons to shatter Olivia's reputation. Damon's face darkened as he absorbed the contents. "This is her next strike," he said, voice low and harsh. "She wants to tear you down, piece by piece." Olivia swallowed hard, a fierce fire igniting in her chest. "I won't let her," she said firmly, voice steady despite the storm inside. "Not without a fight." Damian nodded slowly, respect and concern warring in his eyes. "Then prepare yourself." This was far from over. Far away, in the sleek confines of her own office, Cassandra smiled coldly. Her fingers glided over her phone screen, sending messages like poison darts to contacts across the company and media. She had uncovered Olivia's vulnerabilities and was meticulously crafting the perfect storm: rumors, leaks, whispered allegations to isolate her. Victory felt close, But even as she plotted, a flicker of doubt gnawed at her. Olivia was no longer the vulnerable newcomer. She was adapting. Growing sharper, stronger. And Cassandra knew the endgame was approaching, one that would decide everything. The war beneath the office lights was entering its deadliest phase. Rumors of Cassandra's vulnerability spread, whispered in hushed tones. Even the most loyal began to question, but Olivia's biggest challenge was Damian. Their interactions had become more guarded, more charged with unsaid words. One evening, Damian invited Olivia to the rooftop terrace, overlooking the city lights. Breeze was cool, carrying the hum of the city below. I never wanted this to become a battlefield between us, Damian confessed, voice rough with emotion. But I can't ignore what's happening. Olivia looked out at the skyline, her heart pounding. I don't want to lose you to this war, he continued, but I'm afraid it's already begun. She turned to him, eyes blazing with determination. Then let's decide what we're fighting for. Their hands brushed, electric and fragile, but Cassandra was far from defeated. She called a covert meeting with an unexpected ally, a rival executive with his own ambitions. Together, they plotted to strike back, to expose Olivia's secrets and unravel her growing influence. The game was no longer just about power or respect. It was about survival. And as shadows collided beneath the office lights, only one truth remained certain. In this war, there would be no winners, only survivors. The city had long since surrendered to night, but the office at Blackwood Corp remained alive with a different kind of energy, tense, electric, and fragile as glass. Olivia sat alone in her dimly lit workspace, the soft blue glow from her laptop casting shadows on the scattered documents and unopened coffee cups. Her eyes were bloodshot from hours of digging, piecing together a puzzle that was as personal as it was professional. A sudden knock at the door startled her. Damian stepped inside quietly, closing the door behind him with a deliberate care. His presence filled the room like a storm about to break, calm, but heavy with unspoken words. "We need to talk," he said, voice low, cutting through the thick silence. Olivia's heart caught. She closed her laptop slowly, sensing the gravity of what was coming. Meeting his gaze, she saw a conflict there, a man torn between loyalty, fear, and something that resembled regret. "What is it?" she asked, steadying her voice. Damian took a deep breath and withdrew a slim folder from his briefcase. The weight of the moment pressed down on them both as he opened it, revealing pages filled with data, reports, and what looked like an internal investigation. "They've been digging into you," he said quietly. "Not just your work, but your past, your history. Someone wants to find anything that can be used against you." Olivia's breath hitched. Her carefully constructed walls threatened to crumble, but she held herself upright, refusing to let panic take hold. "Who?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "Cassandra," Damian replied, his tone grim and unwavering. "She's orchestrated this entire campaign, from the sabotage at work to now this personal attack. She's relentless." A bitter laugh escaped Olivia's lips. "I thought I was the one under fire." Damian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "In this game, Olivia, trust is the most fragile currency. You can't be sure who's on your side. Not fully." His words were heavy with truth and loneliness. "I don't know who to believe anymore," Olivia admitted, feeling the sting of vulnerability she rarely allowed herself. Damian's expression softened. He reached out, placing a tentative hand on her shoulder. "Believe in yourself. That's all I ask." For a brief, precious moment, the chaos outside their walls faded, two people clinging to fragile hope amid the storm. Then her phone vibrated sharply. Breaking the spell, she glanced at the screen, an email from an unknown sender. The subject line, "Truth always surfaces." Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside were screenshots, private conversations, photographs, hints of past mistakes, and secrets long buried. A dossier of dirt Cassandra had painstakingly unearthed, twisted into weapons to shatter Olivia's reputation. Damon's face darkened as he absorbed the contents. "This is her next strike," he said, voice low and harsh. "She wants to tear you down, piece by piece." Olivia swallowed hard, a fierce fire igniting in her chest. "I won't let her," she said firmly, voice steady despite the storm inside. "Not without a fight." Damian nodded slowly, respect and concern warring in his eyes. "Then prepare yourself. This war is far from over." Far away, in the sleek confines of her own office, Cassandra smiled coldly. Her fingers glided over her phone screen, sending messages like poison darts to contacts across the company and media. She had uncovered Olivia's vulnerabilities and was meticulously crafting the perfect storm: rumors, leaks, whispered allegations to isolate her. Victory felt close, but even as she plotted, a flicker of doubt gnawed at her. Olivia was no longer the vulnerable newcomer. She was adapting, growing sharper, stronger. And Cassandra knew the endgame was approaching, one that would decide everything. The war beneath the office lights was entering its deadliest phase. Asterisk. The morning sun struggled to pierce through the dense clouds hanging over the city, mirroring the heavy atmosphere inside. Blackwood Corp. The usual vibrant chatter of the office was replaced by a stifling silence, the kind that speaks volumes in whispered glances and careful avoidance. Olivia walked through the gleaming corridors with the measured composure of someone who had rehearsed every step, every breath, yet inside a storm raged. The damning email from the night before replayed relentlessly in her mind, screenshots of private conversations, photos, and fragments of a past she thought long buried, now weaponized against her by Cassandra. Each whisper, each sideways glance from colleagues felt like a needle piercing through her carefully rebuilt confidence. She arrived at her desk, heart pounding, fingers trembling as she unlocked her phone. A message from Damian appeared. "We need to talk. Now, my office." Damian's office was a rare sanctuary, its sleek modern design a stark contrast to the chaos encroaching upon their lives. The city skyline loomed outside, indifferent to the human turmoil inside. He looked up as Olivia entered, exhaustion and conflict etched deeply on his face. "This isn't just office politics anymore," he began, voice low but resolute. "It's a strategic campaign to dismantle you. Your career, your credibility, everything." Olivia swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words settle like a stone in her chest. "She's attacking me personally," Olivia said, voice cracking. "Using my past as a weapon?" Damian nodded. "It's calculated. She's playing a long game designed to isolate you from allies and sow distrust." Silence stretched between them before Olivia spoke again. "Then we fight smarter." Over the next days, Olivia became a force of nature. She moved cautiously but decisively, calling discreet meetings with department heads and key influencers within the company. Her evidence of Cassandra's misconduct was precise and irrefutable. Forged documents, suspicious financial activity, and orchestrated sabotage. With a carefully crafted message, Olivia addressed the company, acknowledging the rumors but affirming her dedication and transparency. The message was released first internally, then strategically shared with selected media contacts, turning the narrative from victimhood to resilience. Yet the personal toll was mounting. Damian, burdened by the dual role of CEO and conflicted lover, became distant and guarded. Their conversations grew terse, heavy with the things left unsaid. One frigid evening, Olivia confronted him on the rooftop terrace, the city lights glittering beneath a dark sky. "Damian," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "I need to know, where do you stand? With me? With her? With this company?" He looked away, jaw clenched and torn between my responsibilities and my feelings. Sometimes doing what's right for the company means sacrifice. Her eyes searched his. But what about what's right for us? He finally met her gaze, pain flickering behind his eyes. Sometimes what's right isn't clear. Sometimes it's the hardest choice we have to make. Their hands brushed a brief touch laden with unspoken longing and regret. Meanwhile, Cassandra was executing her final and most devastating move with an unexpected ally, a rival executive hungry for power. She prepared to release intimate emails between Damian and Olivia. The goal, to destroy their fragile trust, spark scandal, and turn the board and public opinion against them. But Olivia, anticipating the attack, had allies watching Cassandra's moves closely. When the leak hit, Olivia and Damian acted swiftly, issuing joint statements, controlling the narrative, and exposing Cassandra's manipulative schemes. The office buzzed with disbelief. Allegiances shifted as Cassandra's facade cracked. Olivia had reclaimed control, but the victory was bittersweet because beneath the office lights, the line between triumph and loss was razor-thin. Every choice bore a cost. And for Olivia, the battle was far from over. The soft hum of fluorescent lights filled Damian's office, but it was the silence between words that spoke loudest. Outside, the city was slowly fading into twilight, its golden glow a stark contrast to the shadows thickening within the glass. Walls of Blackwood Corp. Olivia stood by the window, watching the skyline blur as the sun dipped below the horizon. She felt the weight of the day pressing down on her, the subtle stares from colleagues, the whispers that seemed to follow her like ghosts. The storm unleashed by Cassandra's latest assault was momentarily quelled, but its aftershocks still rattled the fragile peace. Behind her, Damon's voice broke through the quiet, low and steady but laced with tension. "We need to talk," he said. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes, dark, conflicted, holding years of unsaid words. "This war has changed everything, Olivia," Damian began, stepping closer. "It's no longer just about power or survival. It's about us." Her breath caught. "What do you mean?" He ran a hand through his hair, a rare sign of vulnerability. "I'm torn. Between my duty as CEO, the responsibility to protect the company, and my feelings for you. I don't want to lose either, but the path we're on threatens both." Olivia's heart pounded in her chest. "We can't keep living in halves, Damian. Pretending the personal and professional don't collide." He took a slow breath, eyes searching hers for understanding. "I'm scared. Scared that the cost of this war will be more than either of us can bear." Their proximity was electric. For a moment, the rest of the world fell away, just two souls suspended in uncertainty. Meanwhile, far from the polished boardrooms, Cassandra was regrouping in the dim light of her sleek office. Her face was a mask of icy determination, eyes sharp and calculating. Her recent failures only fueled her resolve. In a hushed meeting with her new, powerful ally, a rival executive hungry for control, she laid out her final gambit. This time, she said coldly, "We don't just dismantle her career. We shatter the entire foundation of Blackwood Corp, expose every weakness no one dares to speak of." Her ally nodded, eyes gleaming with ambition. I liked the sound of that. The plan was audacious, risky, but if successful, it would tip the scales irrevocably. Back at the office, Olivia's days blurred into a whirlwind of preparation. Meetings with trusted confidants, late-night strategy sessions, gathering evidence not just to defend herself, but to strike decisively. She leaned on old allies and forged new ones, understanding that in this fight, isolation was a death sentence. Yet beneath her steely exterior, doubt gnawed. The growing distance with Damian weighed heavily. Their once frequent conversations had dwindled to guarded exchanges, the space between them filled with what neither dared say aloud. One night, after a long day of negotiations and damage control, Olivia sat alone in her apartment, the city lights twinkling mockingly outside her window. Her phone buzzed. A message from Damian. We need to find a way forward, together. A small spark of hope flickered within her, because beneath the office lights, the battle was far. From over. It was a war for truth, for power, for love, and at this crossroads, every choice could mean everything. Asterisk, the tension at Blackwood Corp was palpable. The aftermath of Cassandra's failed coup still lingered in the air like an uncheckable fog. Employees whispered in corners, alliances shifted like sand, and trust had become a scarce commodity. Olivia found herself navigating a minefield, daily balancing the relentless pressure from the board, the media scrutiny, and the fragile, complicated relationship with Damian. One morning, Damian requested a private meeting. His usually composed demeanor was replaced with a rare vulnerability. We can't keep going like this, he said. Our personal struggles are bleeding into the company, and it's jeopardizing everything. Olivia nodded, her heart heavy. I know, but how do we stop the chaos when the people we trusted are the ones pulling the strings? Damian's jaw tightened. We exposed them, all of them. No more secrets. Meanwhile, Cassandra was not finished. Her latest scheme was audacious, planting falsified evidence implicating Olivia in financial misconduct. It was a dangerous gamble that could destroy Olivia's career and credibility permanently, but Olivia, ever vigilant, uncovered the plot just in time. With Damian's support, she gathered proof and prepared to confront Cassandra in the upcoming board meeting. The day of reckoning arrived. The boardroom was charged with anticipation as Olivia and Cassandra faced off, their histories and betrayals laid bare. Olivia presented her evidence methodically documents, emails, and witness testimonies that dismantled Cassandra's accusations and revealed her own web of lies and manipulation. The room was silent, the weight of truth settling over everyone. Damian looked at Olivia with a mix of pride and sorrow, knowing the battle was won. But at great personal cost, Cassandra's facade cracked, and she was swiftly removed from her position. The victory was bittersweet. Olivia and Damian stood alone in the aftermath, the echoes of betrayal and broken trust lingering. We've won the war, Damian said quietly, but what about us? Olivia met his gaze, her voice steady but vulnerable. Maybe. Now we can start to rebuild. Asterisk, the air in Blackwood Corp felt lighter now, though the echoes of the past lingered like distant thunder, reminders of battles fought, alliances broken, and trust fractured. Olivia stood by the window of her office, gazing out at the cityscape, glowing softly in the twilight. The skyline that once seemed so distant and indifferent now felt intimate, filled with possibility. Her journey had been harrowing, betrayal, manipulation, loss, yet here she was, standing firm, scars both visible and hidden, stronger than ever. The victory over Cassandra had come at a cost. Friendships were strained, relationships tested, and the quiet ache of what might have been lingered in the spaces between words. Damon's footsteps approached, steady and familiar. I've been thinking about everything, he said gently, stopping beside her, about how much we lost, and what we still have. She turned to face him, searching the depth in his eyes, vulnerability, regret, and hope all intertwined. We can't erase the past, Olivia said softly, but maybe, just maybe, we can build something new, something honest. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that spoke of tentative trust. I want that. More than anything, Damian replied, voice steady. They stood together in silence, the city lights flickering around them like stars, a quiet promise of new beginnings. The days that followed were filled with the slow, careful work of rebuilding. Not just careers, but hearts. Olivia learned to open up, sharing her fears and hopes with Damian. Finding strength in vulnerability. Damian, in turn, shed the walls he had built, embracing the messy, beautiful complexity of their connection. Their relationship was no longer defined by secrets or power struggles, but by mutual respect and a shared vision for the future. At a company gathering months later, Olivia stood beside Damian as they addressed their colleagues, united not just as partners in business, but in life. The applause that followed was warm and genuine, a testament to battles won and bridges rebuilt. As the night drew to a close, Olivia and Damian stepped outside under the familiar glow of the city lights. "Whatever comes next," Olivia said, leaning into him, "we face it together." Damian smiled, pulling her close. Together, and beneath those office lights, once witnesses to their struggles and pain, they found hope, love, and a future worth fighting for.